place, we invite you to just relax, close your eyes, rest in the presence, and hold space.
Ganapataye namo namaha. Ganapataye namo namaha. Ganapataye namo namaha. Jai Ganesha Gananatha Dayaniti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamare. Jai Ganesha Gananatha Dayaniti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamare. Ganapataye namo namaha. 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 Omega Dantaya Vidmahi Vakrajundaya Dhimahi Tanno Danti Prachodayat. Ganapataye namo namaha. 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 Jai Ganesha Gananatha Dayaniti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamare. Jai Ganesha Gananatha Dayaniti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamare. Ganapataye namo namaha. 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 Om Vakratundaya Ganapataye Namo Namaha Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha Jai Ganesha Gananatha Dayaniti Sakala Vigna Karadura Hamari Jai Ganesha Gananatha Dayaniti Sakala Vigna Karadura Hamari Ganapataye Namo Namaha Ganapataye Namo Namaha Ganapataye Namo Namaha Ganapataye Namo Ganapataye Namo Namaha Suklam Bharadram Vishnu Sasivarnam Chaturjam Prasannavanam Dhyaye Sarvavignyopashantaye Sarvavignyopashantam Ganapataye Namo Namaha Ganapataye Namo Namaha Ganapataye Namo Namaha Ganapataye Namo Namaha Ganapataye Namo Jai Ganesha Gananatha Dayaniti Sakala Vigna Karadura Hamari Jai Ganesha Gananatha Dayaniti Sakala Vigna Karadura Hamari Ganapataye Namo Namaha Ganapataye Namo Namaha Ganapataye Namo Namaha Ganapataye Namo Namaha
Namaste. Welcome to our weekly online global satsang. Satsang being a Sanskrit word that means essentially spiritual community. Literally, it translates as community of truth. Wherever two or more people who are on the path of seeking truth, of awakening, the flowering of the heart, come together to share their journey, to share their presence, to share their insights, share their challenges with one another, we have a satsang. Spiritual community is an essential part of the journey. There's only so far, well, we really can't go anywhere alone because we're never actually alone. But to continue to grow on the spiritual path, at some point we need to begin to come together with others who share similar insights, who resonate with the path that we're on. Even hermits do that. So find a community close by if you can, that you resonate with. You could go meditate together, pray together, share blessings with one another. You'll find it helps so much. And we're glad you're here tonight. This is a virtual community. We're reaching across thousands of miles, across boundaries, political and geographical, that would be difficult, if not impossible, to cross for some of us. And yet, through the gift of modern technology, we're able to connect in real time. And it's beautiful. We also have people that join us in the week between the Monday nights we do this and the next Monday. Many times more people than will be with us when we do it live. Tune in and watch it during the week in between because of where they're living, their schedules, their obligations. So we remember them and hold them in our intentions. And we invite you to do the same, to join us in sending the Flowering Heart Blessing, which is a direct transmission of divine grace, light, awakened consciousness that catalyzes the process of awakening in the receiver. If you're already in that process, it smooths the journey and dissolves blocks. If you're already awakened, it'll help you go deeper because that's not a destination. It just goes on and on and on. And this form of blessing, the divine revealed to Suzanne and me about 9 years ago now, and said, start to share this one. And this one belongs to no particular tradition or organization. It comes directly from me. And I give it to whomever I please. It's a gift of grace, so don't charge anyone for this. And let them know if they like this presence, this grace, that once they've received it just one time, they can begin to share it with others. And guess what? You're soaking in it right now. It's every one of us on this live stream right now are soaking in the Flowering Heart Blessing. So if you connect with it, if you feel it, just invite the divine to pour it through you and join us in flowing out the blessing to all those who are watching tonight and all those who will be watching the recording of this at any time in the future. What we're sharing, the Flowering Heart Blessing, is actually pure spirit, pure awareness. And whereas even energy and frequency takes time to travel through space, spirit does not. Spirit is present everywhere simultaneously, instantly. So if someone were to watch this video 10 years from now, they would experience the same grace, the same presence that we do tonight. So thank you for joining in. Please remember, if you're on Facebook Live, to give us a thumbs up or a heart or whatever else you feel like giving, so I can go in at the end and see your names and send you special hugs and blessings. We like to know who is participating with us, so we appreciate that. That includes you who may be watching this days after it was done live. I still go back in during the week and see who's been watching and just send you special love and blessings. If you're on Vimeo, you'd need to just enter something in the chat and tell me your name, because sometimes I'll get, hi, it's me, from Namaste. And there could be a lot of Namaste. So if you're on Vimeo, just give me your name with whatever comment you may make. We begin these satsangs with about 10 minutes of quiet, spontaneous meditation as the music plays, just resting in the divine presence. Then after a few minutes of explanation, which is happening right now, we open it to questions and answers on the spiritual journey. You can ask any question and we'll try to answer it, even if it's uncomfortable or I don't know the answer in the moment. And I keep saying I tonight, which is weird because I'm usually saying we. Well, we are one, all of us, but Suzanne has been gone for 9 days. She'll be coming back tomorrow off a 10-day trip. And I'm realizing that since we stopped traveling to India about 9 years ago, this is probably the longest that we've been apart. And I realize, wow, just how important. I had some sense, but you know, they say absence makes the heart grow fonder. And I'm so aware of the light and the presence and so many things that Suzanne brings our community and my life, and we're really a team. So it'll be great to have her back. And this is the last week. Hopefully you'll have to put up with me alone for some time. So while I give you a few minutes to consider, what I invite you to do is to look inside and ask the inner presence, the divine presence within you, that still small voice, to bring to your awareness a question you might ask in some area of your journey, ideally, where you'd like more insight, more clarity, more light. And add it to the chat. It helps everyone. All of us are on unique paths, and yet they all parallel one another, and we all go through along the way similar challenges and similar questions. So the question you ask and the answer that it may inspire will help all of us. So that's your part to play. So while you have a few minutes to consider that, I'm going to share some quotes. Each week I take a brief article from a website called inspiringquotes.com, a group of authors who write really relevant, just brief 2 or 3 paragraph articles, and then share a list of quotes from influential and illuminated souls that bear light on the subject, which tonight is 13 quotes about coping with illness. And let's see what, it's written by Joyce Chen. We've had a number of articles from her that have been great. Joyce Chen is a writer, editor, and community builder based in Seattle, Washington. And thank you again for your contributions. So, here's what she writes. We are all, in some way, shape, or form, susceptible to falling ill at some point in our lives. But no one has to be defined by their illness, be it mental or physical. What's more important is the willpower, empathy, and human spirit that shine through amid the most difficult circumstances. Whether it's ourselves or a loved one suffering, sometimes the best way to stay positive is remembering just how far we've come, how strong we've been in the face of adversity, and how important it is to channel our energy toward possibilities versus obstacles. Though there's a lot we can't control when it comes to battling illness, what we can insist on is the kind of mindset that prizes selfhood over a defeatist mentality. Here we've rounded up 13 quotes to help inspire you to stay hopeful when things get challenging. And notice right at the beginning she said, illness, whether we're talking about mental or physical. So that's a wide array. frankly, I think that most of humanity is quite a bit crazy. So these quotes can be helpful whether you're looking at physical illness, mental illness, emotional, or some other imbalance or dis-ease in your life. Let's begin. We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. Martin Luther King Jr. I often say now I don't have any choice whether or not I have Parkinson's. But surrounding that non-choice is a million other choices that I can make. Michael J. Fox. Maybe life isn't about avoiding the bruises. Maybe it's about collecting the scars to prove that we showed up for it. Hannah Brencher. You either get bitter or you get better. It's that simple. You either take what has been dealt to you and allow it to make you a better person, or you allow it to tear you down. The choice does not belong to fate. It belongs to you. Josh Shipp. Courage does not always roar. Sometimes courage is the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I will try again tomorrow. Marianne Rademacher. Talking about our problems is our greatest addiction. Break the habit. Talk about your joys. Rita Shiano. Hope begins in the dark. The stubborn hope that if you just show up and try to do the right thing, the dawn will come. You wait and watch and work. You don't give up. Anne Lamott. You can't calm the storm, so stop trying. What you can do is calm yourself. The storm will pass. Oh, I love that. Timber Hawkeye. You can't calm the storm, so stop trying. What you can do is calm yourself. The storm will pass. Most of the important things in the world have been accomplished by people who have kept on trying when there seemed to be no hope at all. Dale Carnegie. If opening your eyes, or getting out of bed, or holding a spoon or combing your hair is the daunting Mount Everest you climb today, that is okay. Carmen Ambrosia. Never let the things you cannot do prevent you from doing the things you can. John Wooden. What makes night within us may leave stars. Victor Hugo. Normality is a paved road. It's comfortable to walk, but no flowers grow on it. Vincent van Gogh. There's some nice ones there. Well, they're all nice. I really like this one that said, you either get bitter or you get better. It's that simple. You either take what's been dealt to you and allow it to make you a better person, or you allow it to tear you down. And the choice does not belong to fate. It belongs to you. Wow. So true. So, back to our questions, which I see one, I think. Well, Stacy writes, perfect topic for me. I've been dealing with an unexpected, aren't they all, illness for the past 2 months. I vacillate between resentment and minding the lessons. Wonderful quotes. Yeah, and it's important if you do vacillate not to judge yourself. The word translated doubt in the Christian scriptures means, in the Greek, it means to vacillate or to waver between two opinions. So we can waver between trusting and believing and doubting and fearing. We can waver between resentment or learning the lessons, but it's the nature of the mind to be dualistic and divisive. And so sometimes we're like a ping pong ball being tossed back and forth by two opinions in our minds. And sometimes, especially when we start to learn that that's doubting and that we should just, be firm and focused, we could be hard on ourselves. But you really don't need to be. There's a story in the New Testament of the Bible where a man asked Jesus to work a miracle for him, for his child. And Jesus tells him, only believe. All things are possible to the one who believes. And the man instantly cried out, Lord, I do believe. Help my unbelief. Now that showed amazing self-awareness. He didn't judge himself as being pure and single in his faith. He knew he wasn't. But nor did he judge himself as just being a doubter and an unbeliever filled with fear. He said, I do believe. Help my unbelief. He saw that there were two things at work within him. And rather than trying to work it out in his mind, and rather than judging himself or trying to kid himself, he immediately opened himself and said, help my unbelief. I learned years ago that after learning many, many prayers, memorizing so many prayers, and coming up with my own, talk to God. One of my great teachers and mentors, Father Thomas Keating, said, the most eloquent prayer in words is simply help. And God's language, original language, is silence anyway. The divine absolutely knows what your heart is yearning for, crying for, asking for, before you're even clear about it, before you could ever put it into words. The divine knows and is set about to fulfill that need, because that's the nature of God. More writes, psychologists often believe that we will all have emotional wounds, traumas, from our early experiences, while some meditators refer to a wound that we all have generated by our separation from the unity with divinity, which occurs when we come to earth. I would like to know your ideas on the subject. Well, it's not an either or. I believe that we deal with both. Okay? And I would add to it that we may bring trauma with us from previous lives, if you believe in that. Things that have been unprocessed in previous lives are the very baggage and the karma that draws us back here over and over again, unless we're enlightened and choose to be here as a bodhisattva. I agree that we all have emotional wounds from our early experiences. And that can go back to the womb. If in the womb, the child is conscious, not rational, not analytical, not understanding, but feeling. So supposing that the parents get very upset when they find out they're pregnant and going to have a baby because of the financial stress and other things, the baby would feel that. And there would be a certain insecurity. Even more dramatic is when parents are wrestling at the beginning on whether to keep the pregnancy or not, and assume that the child is sheltered and insulated from all that, but truly the child is experiencing everything at a pure emotional level. And so they come into life, if that's the case, with perhaps a sense of not being wanted or being insecure. And that can have a lot of ramifications later on. We have a friend who was born quite prematurely, I think a couple months, spent a couple months in an incubator, not getting physical touch, in an incubator, except through those rubber gloves or however they were doing it then. And so he didn't get to lie on his mother's breast or feel that human touch and nurturance. He was just an infant. That's right. So he didn't have the memory, and certainly didn't have the rational ability to understand why he was in an incubator and why he wasn't being touched. He felt that deep emotional need for connection. And that came with him into his adult life. This deep, just insatiable need for connection, nurturance, and touch. And it led, in his case, to some sexual addiction, which eventually, by the grace of God and I guess some good psychology, he came to understand how this inordinate instinctual drive was so exacerbated and intensified by this trauma, if you will, that he brought with him from his infancy. And so much more happens during early childhood. I like to tell the story of a child who, 3-year-old, on their way home from the grocery store with mom, was going to fix dinner. They're going to eat in about an hour, and the kid sees a Dairy Queen. Says, "Oh, get me ice cream. I want ice cream." And mom says, "No, you'll spoil your appetite. We're going to eat in an hour." Well, the 3-year-old doesn't know what an hour is, has no idea what spoiling its appetite could possibly be. And its mother, the goddess of the universe, through whose loins he was given birth, at whose breasts he was suckled, the divine, she's as close as he knows of the divine feminine. She's saying, "No, you cannot have what you're yearning for." That seems so innocent. And yet, that can form a judgment, an opinion in the child at a pre-rational level that life is going to be withholding nurturance and goodness. And that can cause tremendous overcompensation in the form of emotional drives, usually either for security and stability or for esteem and connection, pleasure, sexuality at some point, or power and control. And those things can be driving, powerful, undeniable influences that are programs for happiness that cannot succeed. The things we come up with to try to satisfy our need for security, you can get however many insurance policies you want, put however many locks on the door you want, get as many self-defense articles as you can get, but you never feel safe until that is healed in the emotional center for security and stability, which you might recognize as the first chakra. If affection has been withheld, touch, connection, and nurturance, well, that translates into the things that we already talked about. You might recognize the second chakra there. In the area of power and control, all humans wrestle with power and control. We're the most helpless newborns, I think, on the planet. We're completely dependent on our mothers, our parents at the beginning. And often, they haven't been trained not to say no. Like that mother who said, no, you can't have ice cream, you'll spoil your appetite. Often, and if you consider your own childhood, how many times did we want to do something and our parents simply said no? When we start to get a little older and reaching, a more reasonable age, we go, why? And often the answer given was, because I told you so. So that kind of thing in the first 6 years of life creates this tremendous emotional need for some power and control over our lives, which you already know we have so little in this world. So actually there's a whole movement to not say no, to redirect that intense yearning for something, to try to find another, well, let's do this instead. But not to just flat out say no, which frustrates this growing center within the child you might recognize as the third chakra of power and control. And these things have to be returned to later in life and dealt with, or they exact a price. And I share this many times, that in the monastic traditions, not just in Eastern religion, but also in Western, monks take vows of renunciation. They've got these issues with safety and security, so let's renounce it. I'll renounce possessions, poverty. Everybody yearns for connection and esteem and comfort, but the monk renounces sexual contact and often other forms of pleasure to only receive pleasure from divine union, the vow of chastity. And then there's obedience, the vow of obedience, which is, will's always an issue, and we need to surrender to the divine will. And we have this extreme need for power and control. So how do you overcome it? Well, in most monastic traditions, you take a vow of obedience to your elders, to your superiors, or to God directly. Poverty, chastity, and obedience in some form or another are commitments, vows that are made by monks of all different spiritual traditions. But just to make a vow to renounce it doesn't clear these emotional issues. So sometimes monks later in life, even masters, will find themselves just thrown back into those first three chakras to face and resolve the issues that were not faced before taking a monastic renunciate vow. Sometimes it works, the vows, because the soul is really ready. And there's enough work that's been done, they're clean enough and clear enough that when they give up materialism and they give up sensuality and they give up power and control, they begin to fly from the heart chakra above in freedom. But often it kind of backfires, and those creative energies that need to be expressed through those three emotional centers or those first three chakras get bound up. And that can make a renunciate very brittle kind of, and hard and harsh. So it tends to go two ways with a monk. They're either kind of harsh and hard, or they're playful and light and like dancing children. So there was more to that question though. So that was one thing, early childhood trauma, but what about what some meditators refer to as a wound we've all have generated by our separation from the unity with divinity which occurs when we come to earth? It seems like, to me, that in the state that a child is born into with no sense of self really yet. There's no sense of separation either. That seems to grow. The sense of separation comes from coming to full mental egoic self-awareness without a sense of divine union. But it's certainly possible that there's some sense of certainly separation from the primal unity with divinity, but these children don't actually even experience the biological self or physical separation until a year or two into the journey. They're just in this nebulous state of connection. So that's what I think about that. And then Stacy writes, what are your thoughts on the value of practice? I've gone through periods of great discipline where prayer, meditation, yoga, and other constructive habits are concerned. Sages say that practice is essential to evolution and empowered living. But lately, I'm just not impelled to do it. Making a big effort to notice this change instead of judging it. Well, good for being aware of this. Spiritual practice is always of value. A Zen master that I'm aware of, a contemporary living one, said that enlightenment is an accident. You can't make it happen, you can't predict it, it's an accident. But he's noticed over the decades of his mastery that people who have a regular, dedicated spiritual practice are accident prone when it comes to enlightenment. So enlightenment seems to favor those who have a spiritual practice and carry it on. Okay, then I know and have had the good fortune to know quite a few masters, awakened masters. And I don't know of any that said, I'm enlightened now, I've discontinued my practice, my meditation. It's like, I'm strong now, am I going to quit exercising? Not that they would lose their, it's just that a spiritual practice is a healthy part of life. We eat, we get exercise, we need sleep. Spiritual practice, good spiritual practice, is like that. It's a basic food group. It's a vitamin that you need. And at certain points, spiritual practice may be essential to evolution. I don't think Eckhart Tolle was involved in spiritual practice when he got enlightened. He wasn't even looking for it. So see, there are exceptions to all these notions. I know of another Zen master who's on his last lifetime. He's decided, this is it. He's fully liberated and living in absolute non-duality, and this is his final lifetime. He's in an amazing state of consciousness. He wasn't looking for it. He lived in one of those countries where Zen's one of the main things, and there were temples all around going on, and sesshins, but he never went to a temple or one of those meditations. Just one day, it was time, and he was awakened. Fully awakened, and he's recognized as an awakened master, but he hadn't been studying the Buddhist sutras, he hadn't been practicing Zazen meditation like for hours every day for years. It just fell on him. So there are exceptions, but that said, the accident of enlightenment, I think, tends to favor those who have a consistent practice, and those once who have it and become awakened, they don't abandon their practice. The great yoga masters still practice yoga. The great meditation masters love meditation and continue it. There are, however, periods where we just feel not to do it. And that's where we need to not be rigid. There are times where the divine presence will actually withdraw spiritual consolation from the practices that you're doing. So maybe there's a form of meditation or yoga or prayer that you've been doing for years and it always worked for you. And this is one of the ways you could connect to presence and grace and soak in it. And then one day, it's like the divine withdrew the grace from that practice. And one of the ways you notice is you just don't even want to do it anymore. And if you do try to force yourself to do it, it just doesn't feel right. That's classic. That's a classic beginning stage of the dark night of the soul, the night of sense, when the spiritual practices that we have been disciplined to do stop making us feel great, and we notice we don't have as much or any desire or grace to do it. That's a call to go deeper, to not remain addicted to external sources and external practices, and to dive deeper into the divine source within. And to find that grace, that light that we're receiving through a teacher we no longer feel like hanging out with anymore, or a kind of yoga or meditation that just doesn't seem to be doing it anymore. The divine saying, don't remain addicted to these things. Dive within and find the source of the grace that you experience flowing through those practices. Yeah. What you mean? Are you saying they become a lifestyle? I mean, meditation or spiritual practices? They become part of your lifestyle. And Maury writes, I have two versions of meditation, the short one and the long one. I do each day the one I choose. Well, good for you. And maybe there's something actually helping you choose. Sometimes we think we're choosing, and we are, because we have free will. But you're probably being guided. I know people that used to do hours and hours and hours. Well, I was one. I still do spiritual practice every day, but not like I did. 8 to 12 hours a day of meditation and Taoist yoga? No, not anymore. I know people that all they do now is practice the presence of God. They just open to the presence and let go. And the presence of the divine meditates them spontaneously and works in them spontaneously. That's called in India Sahaj Dhyana. Dhyana means meditation. Sahaj would be spontaneous. Not something that you access through efforts and practices. It's the divine presence itself takes you into spontaneous meditation. And I think that's the best. In the Western Christian tradition, it's called contemplative prayer, which is where the divine just takes over. And in order to surrender to the divine, to do that deeper, more advanced work, you have to let go of control of what's going on in those practices that you were doing as a matter of will and discipline, and just let go and let God. Now that doesn't dawn on most people overnight. It takes, we usually do ascetical practices, these spiritual practices that take discipline and persistence. Most people do that for some time before they begin to be weaned of the dependence on them and enter into this place of spontaneous absorption in the divine presence itself, which is a definition of samadhi. Dhyana meditation means concentration, and most Eastern meditation practices are to concentrate the mind on one thing, divine union or the whatever you're meditating on. But there's something, there's levels beyond dhyana that are called samadhi. And that's really up to the divine. And samadhi is absorption in the presence, where we forget ourselves and dissolve in oneness with God. And at some point, if we persevere and continue, it becomes permanent and integrated with our lives. Those are great questions. Thank you. Wow. You guys excelled tonight. So, it's that time. Close your eyes. And open your hearts. And invoke the divine presence within you. deep within you is the divine source itself in all of its fullness. Rumi said, you're not just a drop of the ocean, you're the entire ocean in a drop. It's been said, the outer world is simply a reflection of the inner world. Any experience of beauty and light and life and divine grace that you've seen and experienced on the outside in your life is a reflection of what's inside of you, what has been there all along. The whole universe is inside of you, and that's a mystery, to be experienced, not understood. This divine presence within you is pure, unconditional love. Oh, the teachings of religion sometimes have caused us to fear God, like a judge, and feel that we're separate, that there's distance between us and the divine, and that's just not at all true. The Christian scriptures, which are often guilty of this message of you're separated from God and unless you repent, you're going to hell. St. Paul, who wrote 2/3 of the New Testament, said, in God we live. In the divine presence we live and move and have our being. Nothing is separate from God. And God is pure love. And all the scriptures where it said one ought to fear him could have been translated, one ought to be in reverential awe, not terror. Bad translation. It's fine to be in awe of the divine, to be absolutely reverent, but not to fear. This divine presence loves you overwhelmingly and wants to dissolve the veil of separation and distance, which is a construct of the mind. It's not truth. So just let go and let the divine presence, like the celestial sun of the universe, draw you through the gravity of its love into the very center. It's not through effort that you get there. It's by letting go and surrendering to the attraction of divine love. God draws you into the center and dissolves all of the illusion of separation, fear and judgment, and floods your spirit with the light of awakening, of oneness with Source and with all that is. Let it be. Let it be. Just receive the grace of awakening. This divine being is all-powerful, all-knowing, all-wise. It already knows everything about you today and everything that there will ever be to know about you, and still loves you just as you are. Let it transform you and awaken your spirit with enlightenment. It shines out of the spiritual layers of your being into the mental and emotional layers to dissolve wrong thinking, destructive emotions, inauspicious programming. The divine presence, as it shines out of your enlightened heart, dissolves the mind field and floods it with divinely inspired ideas. Yes. Divinely inspired emotions. Divinely constructed programs for life in harmony with the divine will. It shines out through the mental and emotional layers into the physical dimension of your being, the most outward layer, and brings healing to your dis-eases and your pain. Receive the healing grace that is shining out of the center of your being. Just receive. Nothing to do. Drink it in. Soak it up. Breathe it in. Let it fill you and heal you and shine out into your relationships, healing your relationships and making them right, drawing to you healthy relationships and shining out through your life into the world to catalyze others in their awakening. Just let go and let the presence work within you and through you. Imagine us all sitting in a circle together, a blessing circle with our eyes closed. Lift up your hands with your palms open, facing forward, and let us invite the divine to pour the flowering heart blessing through all of us. Let it flow through you to all the others sitting in the circle. You don't need to know what you're doing or how it's happening. The divine is doing it. Just invite the divine to pour through you the blessing to all the others. It's flowing back to you through all of them as well. Now you can relax your hands in your lap somewhere. And when you're ready, open your eyes and begin to make direct eye contact with me. That's all you need to do during the light meditation, which is beginning now. Just keep making eye contact, keep looking. Nothing to do, no effort required. In this meditation, I'm flooded with oceans of divine grace and love and light. Awakened consciousness streams to you through every part of my being, especially through my eyes. Some mystics have called the eyes the windows of the soul. The light shines out through my eyes, into your eyes, through your eyes, into your spiritual heart of hearts. There, causing the light of divine awakening and the fires of divine love to burn brighter and brighter within you. Just allow it to happen and receive. close your eyes now. Meditate with me for a few more minutes as the grace we've received settles within. Now keep meditating as long as you like, or find a place nearby to lie down in Shavasana. Shavasana is a yoga pose where you just lie comfortably on your back with your eyes closed and your arms loosely at your sides with your palms open, turned upward. And just let yourself dissolve in gratitude in the presence. We love you very much. Very much look forward to these times that we spend together in the presence, and want you to know that until we meet again, the divine in me beholds the divine in you. And I bow to you. Namaste.